Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Traders Brawl podcast. This is in collaboration with Web3 TV. Today I have a special guest, Peter Jensen from Rocket Fuel. Peter, how are you doing today?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, thanks for being on the show. We met actually, first time we met was back when I was working for xt.com, and we had you as one of our guests.
That's true. A year ago.
Yeah, it was.
Here in Dubai, yeah.
In Dubai, and you were doing it virtually, which is fine, which was actually pretty well presented. And fast forward to today, we recently reconnected at that Ripple event.
That's right.
And I recognized you, but I didn't know where I remembered you. And then I said, hey, you know what? Let's jump on a podcast. Let's talk about what you're doing and building in Web3.
Yeah. Lots of stuff has happened.
Exactly. So let's get straight to it. So you're you're founder and CEO of Rocket Fuel.
Correct.
So what does Rocket Fuel do?
So what we do is we are a payments company, but we're focusing on the blockchain and crypto technologies. So really, we want to make payments easier, faster, less expensive, more secure by using new technologies. So it's about moving money from A to B, whether that be between two businesses, business to consumer, consumer to business, and so on.
And you mainly work in B2B sales, is that correct?
That is correct. Our customers are merchants.
Merchants.
Yes.
And for the audience who are new, like how would you define a typical merchant of yours that would use your services for transferring money?
It's basically, we have four different products. Maybe I'll just cover that, right?
Go ahead.
We have one product which allows a merchant to receive or accept payment with crypto. So, for example, if you want to buy a pair of shoes and it's $200 and you want to pay with crypto, with our technology, you can do that from that merchant side. So that's one product. Mm-hmm. The other one is we have merchants that need to pay out large amounts of people maybe on a weekly basis. For example, in the gig economy, could be Uber or Lyft or Airbnb. And so more and more people prefer to be paid instead of a bank transfer, they want to be paid in crypto. It's faster, it's easier. Take, for example, Upwork, good example, right? Someone helps you do some work on a PowerPoint presentation. I pay $500 for that. Now, Upwork needs to pay the person that may sit in Indonesia $400, which is the price minus the fee. And these people, the bank transfer takes forever. When it's cross-border, it's unreliable, it's expensive and all that. And a lot of these people are super young, and they already have crypto on their phones. They're like, instead of wiring $400 through the banking system, just send it to me in crypto, I'll have it 5 minutes later.
Interesting. Would you say then, based on that description, Rocket Fuel is similar to what PayPal already does?
PayPal is very much focused on the consumer, at least that's where they started. But they are slowly moving into payments on websites and so on, yes.
Yes, okay. And is your goal to be the preferred crypto payments provider on the likes of Amazon, eBay, things like that?
Yes, obviously we want all merchants, whether that's in-store, every store in the world, whether it's in-store or online, to use our technology. That's not going to happen, right? There's Visa and MasterCard and many other vendors.
Right.
But yeah, we want our unfair share.
So let's delve into some deeper questions into this. So talking about data.
Yes.
Protection of merchants' data. What steps does Rocket Fuel take to protect the data of merchants?
Of merchants?
So for when say money has been transferred, is there any way that their data is exposed, or none of that happens?
One of the advantages of blockchain technology and crypto is it is much more secure. And so it's much harder to hack. It's one of the problems we have today with credit cards, right? If you think about it on the consumer side, credit cards were invented before the internet. And so no wonder it's not working well after the internet. So if you think about credit cards, you may not know this, but what we've done is we've put a lot of band-aids on the credit cards because they're not secure. So we added a magnetic stripe. That didn't work. Then we added a little chip. That didn't work. Or we had to add a CBC code. And it's just a symptom of an old technology. And there's nothing wrong with it when it was starting, but as time evolves, the old technology is not optimal for the new world. And so that is why we're using just modern technology. It's similar to, for example, the taxi industry. The taxi industry worked the same way for 50, 75 years. You had the dispatcher on the radio. It wasn't efficient, right? And you sat there and you waited for the taxi, and did it come, did it not come? And it wasn't until there was a technology, the mobile phone with GPS, that Lyft and Uber and all those guys could change that, right? And that's what we're doing. They move people from A to B, we move money from A to B. We're just doing it more efficient way.
Understood. Interesting. So when you're using crypto, are there any specific cryptocurrencies that you use? Stablecoins, for example, any altcoins in particular, and why?
Yes. So our goal, which is our merchant's goal, is to never turn a customer away. Somebody comes to your store online or in store and wants to buy something. You never want to say no, because you cannot support however way they pay. So we support more than 200 different coins, both stable coins and all the other coins. And that represents 99.999 of all the transactions. So yes, we support them all. We are agnostic. And whatever evolves as the most popular one, if there's suddenly one tomorrow, like for example, PayPal, they just defined their own stablecoin. We're working on adding that. It's whatever consumers have.
So a question right off the back of that, when you add new coins,
yes,
how does that? Is there an approval process, a review process that takes place before you add it? How does that take? Like, for example, adding PayPal stablecoin or stablecoin?
Yeah, I mean, what we need to do just technically is we need to make sure we can support receiving those coins on the right blockchains and all that. So we need to have our internal wallets. That's technology work that our developers work on.
Okay.
And then we need to, of course, have the liquidity providers to exchange those coins into usually a different currency. Because remember, most of the merchants, when you talk to them and say, would you like to receive crypto? They're like, ooh, I don't know about crypto, and what am I don't know, Bitcoin and this and that, and it's volatile. They don't even know about stable coins, right? So what we tell them is, we will settle in your local fiat currency. That's what most of them want. So in one day you have 1,000 payment transactions on your website, and people pay with maybe 50 different coins, right? We get all that in there, and we convert that to dollars or euros or AEDs or whatever. And just like with credit cards, the merchants receive the settlement in their local currency every day. So they don't even have to worry about it. They don't touch the crypto. We touch it, convert it, and put it into their bank account. And that makes them comfortable. And we also have, for example, some merchants are worried about volatility, because they say, well, I've heard that Bitcoin and all the others can go up and down. It's true. Some don't go up and down if you use stablecoins, but that's a different point. So what we have is a settlement guarantee. So if you sell a product for 100 euros, $100, what have you, we guarantee you will always get the $100 minus our fees into your bank account. And we take that risk on the volatility.
Interesting. And since you take that risk, you take the risk of also conversion, because you convert the money, there's a fee to be paid.
Yes.
And sometimes the fees, they vary based on demand.
Yes.
And you accept that under all costs.
Yeah. Yes. It's built in. But that's again the beauty of cryptocurrencies, is because it is just a new technology. The costs are so much lower. Today, if you look at the consumer space, the merchants pay 3%, 5%, some pay 8% to accept credit cards. And so we can do that for a fraction of the cost.
That's true.
Yeah. And so.
Okay, interesting.
So that's one of the benefits of accepting crypto from a merchant. There are many benefits, right? One is it's cheaper, right? And so instead of paying 4%, maybe you pay 1%. Or 2%, whatever you negotiate, right? That goes right to your bottom line. You have less chargebacks, actually you have no chargebacks, and you have less declines. So there are a lot of benefits there.
And what about when it comes to the time it takes to settle? So some merchants take, when it comes to fiat and traditional money, it can take days. In this case, how long does it take?
We settle next business day.
Business day.
Yes. So, so if on Thursday you had $10,000 in volume revenue, you will receive the $10,000 next day in your bank account.
Now, I'm going to challenge you here. What if there were to be a competitor to Rocket Fuel that can do it in seconds? Would that put a threat?
Settle?
Yeah.
Well, no, but we can. So, if we can settle very quickly if they want, but if you want to settle into the old system, which is the fiat system, your bank account, we are limited by how quickly can you make a wire into their bank account, and that depends on the region, the country, and all of that stuff.
Of course.
But some of our customers are starting to be a little bit more advanced. They're like, just settle to me in stablecoins, right? So if it's $10,000 or euros, and then we can settle it in seconds.
In seconds.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but that's because of the technology. But we cannot make the banks work faster than they do.
Of course.
Right.
So when it comes to crypto, you can, but when it
Yes.
comes to fiat, you can't, which
Right.
is beyond your control.
Yeah.
Understandably. Interesting. You mentioned chargebacks. So for the audience who are maybe new, they don't know what this term means. Maybe explain what you mean by chargeback.
Well, what I mean by a chargeback is what a lot of merchants hate, right? But it is when a shopper disputes a charge.
Yeah.
And it causes the merchant to have to spend time on that. As one thing, I have one merchant that has 20 people in their finance department looking at chargebacks. There's a big chain of stores, right? So it's that, and then it's never good because you end up with an unhappy customer no matter what. So it's expensive for the money they lose, for the salaries they have to pay, and lost reputation. So it's not in anybody's interest. And I would say this, most merchants, if you call them up, I'm just giving an example that most people know, Amazon.
Yeah.
Right? If I receive something it's not okay, I call up Amazon and say, look, this is what happened. It didn't show up, or it was the wrong color, the wrong size.
Correct.
Most of the large brands, they would do the right thing. They're like, we're so sorry, sir. We're going to refund you the money. You can send it back. No need for chargebacks, right? And so, especially in the new reputation-based economy where all the vendors are really going out of their way to make the customer happy. They don't want any negative reviews. You win by having happy customers, right?
Yes.
And so that is why I've never had to file a chargeback, because I call them up and I said, you have to fix that.
Understood.
So the need for chargebacks and the need for that customer protection is being reduced.
Interesting. And if say they were unhappy, you said you'd call them, you'd speak to them directly, and say the goods were not received, or let's say the goods were faulty. What if there's a dispute around the goods are faulty, then and there's some debate?
This is no different. Whether I pay with crypto or credit card, the process is the same. I call them up, and if there's something, either most of the times, unless you're trying to take advantage of the situation, I received a pair of jeans, I'm just going to pretend I didn't receive them because I want them for free.
Yes.
And then that, of course, the merchant will say, no, we know we delivered them. You have that argument, but that has not changed.
Right, interesting. Now,
but I mean, I would say this, you have to think about crypto as cash. So if you walk into a store and buy something with cash, it's the same thing because the money is there immediately.
So you've never had to issue any refunds?
Oh, so what happens, we don't have to issue the refunds, but let's say one of our merchants is selling, I said jeans, so let's say a pair of jeans, right? And they send them in the wrong size.
Yes.
And the customer calls the merchant and say, look, I didn't order that size or whatever. And the merchant says, I'm sorry, let me refund you the money. So they can do that through our system and say, okay, you paid me $200 in Bitcoin for those jeans. I'd like to refund them. They can go into our system, issue a refund, and we will send the money back when the merchant asks us to do so.
I see. Understood. I see. Interesting. Now, since we're talking about, Bitcoin, crypto, and the advent of this technology, Bitcoin, if we recall Bitcoin's white paper, it was designed to be a peer-to-peer system.
That's true.
To cut out the intermediaries.
Yes.
Now, do you see yourself in the future? Do you see a future of intermediaries living on in the future as we enter into the peer-to-peer world, peer-to-peer economy?
So, of course, people can pay directly from one wallet to the other. But there are lots of problems with that. And as your business grows, you need a management interface. For example, we have a big portal that our merchants and the shoppers, by the way, can log into and say, but if you're a merchant, okay, how was my revenue yesterday? What was the split between all the coins? Who are my customers? That whole management interface, how does that interface with my accounting system? So in theory, yes, you can do it, and there will be people doing that, and that's fine. But as your volume grows, I mean, it's the same thing. Do you need an ERP system? Couldn't you just sit and write it in the books? Of course you could. You don't have to write a check to SAP, Oracle, or Intuit. But it's just you use modern technology to run your business.
Nice.
And so, for example, the whole thing about settlement guarantee, we guarantee that. We also have some features that ensures that that the transactions always confirms in seconds. As you may know, on the blockchain, a transaction can take several minutes, maybe up to an hour. Now, if I'm a shopper and I make a purchase, I don't want to sit there and wait an hour. And so we've developed some technology. So it's up to us to add value. The cool thing is, because we're using this modern technology, we can just do it more efficiently and safer. It's the same thing Uber does, right? They're using the mobile phone to provide a better, more efficient experience.
Interesting. So I'm glad that you recognize that. That the fact that they could do it their own way, the peer-to-peer way, or they can use you and get advanced sort of analytics.
Well, analytics will take care of the whole thing, and yes.
Interesting. Okay. So that's the benefit for using, and of course, I guess you provide guarantees. I think with a peer-to-peer system, you know, I have to admit myself, when I'm sending money, and especially in a large sum, to a friend a peer, I would double check it, triple check it, quadruple check it, make sure the wallet, the address is correct.
Merchants don't know that. And think about it. You want to do this yourself, right?
Right.
You're a merchant. Buy a pair of shoes. People have 40 different coins they want to pay with. Now you're sitting there with 40 different coins. Who's going to manage all those wallets? Who's going to exchange them? Who's going to put it into No, that's not what a business wants to do. To save 1-2%. I don't think so, but we'll see. I doubt it. What they are doing is they're super happy that they don't have to pay the 3-4-5% in Visa fees. And remember, this is going to take years to roll out. So you look at the adoption percentage of crypto payments versus credit cards. It's still vast majority is credit card, depending on the region. Here in the Middle East, it's a little more advanced. We see the differences. So for example, we looked at it last quarter. We did, as I think I mentioned, 235,000 transactions. And so we looked at the breakdown. What are the coins that people are paying with? So now we're having a lot of data, and depending on the region, it changes. It's very interesting to see. But last quarter, it was 40% stable coins. And then we had, the next one was, I think, 35% Bitcoin, and then Ethereum, and then we had Solana. And that brings up another point is, which coins are going to be used in the future?
I wanted to ask that.
All right, well, why don't you want to take that now?
Yeah. What coins do you think people are using now, and what do you think they'll be using in the future?
Yes. So you have to think about, it's like when you're building a house. You need to use the right tool for the right purpose, right? And the Bitcoins and all of those different coins, the reason they were developed was so that people could invest and they can go up and down in value, right? That's why people buy Bitcoin, but they don't use it as a utility. And that brings me to, we are in the second phase of crypto. The first phase of crypto was people investing or buying crypto as an asset in the hopes it would go up. That was the primary reason.
Because it's a store of value.
Exactly. Now, if you think about using blockchain and crypto as a technology to make payments more efficient, one thing that people do not want to have is volatility. Imagine, and that is why in very few years, 98% of all blockchain and crypto transactions are going to be stable coins, because we are going to be offered, this is what's going to happen very soon. In the US, about 75% of the young kids in universities, they own crypto on their phone. And when they come out of university and get their first job, they're going to be asked a question. Welcome on board. Would you like your salary paid out in US dollars into Bank of America, whatever bank? Got to go down, fill out the paperwork and this and that and the other. Or would you like us to send it in stablecoin, USDC, USDT, maybe the US federal government has issued a CBDC, right? Would you either that we send it the old way, or should we just send it to you directly on the phone? What do you think the young generation is going to say? I do everything on my phone. Of course I'm going to do that.
The latter.
But they don't want it in Bitcoin, most of them, because it can go up and down. Yeah, I just want my money and then I want to go spend it at the bar or what have you. And that is why the future of payments is stablecoins. And it could be dollars, euros. I mean, you and I, we were just at the Ripple conference this week.
Yeah.
We had the Ministry of Finance from, I think it was Palau, right? So they have implemented their own, as a government, they are implementing their own CBDC.
Central bank digital currency for
the
audience.
Yes, so it's a currency that's tied to their own currency, and they happen to use dollars out there. But what it means, and this is if we go a little bit beyond that, is why are they doing that? For many reasons. But some of these countries, they have a lot of unbanked people, right?
True.
So, for example, Latin America, I know some of the countries have 40% unbanked. That means, what does that mean if you're unbanked? I don't know. I didn't think about it. Here's the example they gave me. If you are unbanked, you live an hour outside of the capital in a little hut with a little tin roof on. Mom, dad, 2 kids. One thing they do have, they have a cell phone and they have a little wire and they have 1 lamp in the middle, electricity. So you have to pay your electricity once a month. If you don't have a bank and you're all cash, how do you do that? Dad gets on the bus, takes it 1 hour into the city, stands in line at the electricity company, pays the bill, and travels back. While mom, and I know I'm stereotyping, but that's how it works. She goes to the market and with all her cash. She can be robbed, lots of things can happen with all that cash, right? Now, that is why third world countries see even bigger benefit of crypto, because just like in Africa, they skipped the fixed line telephone and went directly to mobile. These people, they have never owned a bank account. They don't need to, because they all have a mobile phone.
That's true.
Right?
Yep.
So they will now have stable coins on their phones. And that's why they did it in Palau. One of the reasons, right? And so now, when they have to pay the electricity bill, all the electricity company has to do is implement our solution, preferably, to accept those payments. And they can sit in their hut, don't have to travel, right? And they can pay the electricity bill. And when you go down to the market, they can pay it because they have all the currencies there.
I mean, this sounds very good. And I think I'm already seeing this with El Salvador setting it as a legal tender. I think other companies like Expresso, if you may have heard, they're also doing something with this. But now here's the challenge. What if you don't have any paperwork? Is this still like you don't have a passport? You don't have any KYC information? Can you still bank the unbanked with this rocket fuel solution?
It depends on the countries, right? But most countries, yes. Most countries, you have an ID of some form. They may not have a passport.
Yeah.
But that's fine. I mean, I know we do KYB and KYC on everything we do, right? According to the laws. And depending on the country, we use different types of IDs. So for example, in India, they have all sorts of IDs, right? And it depends on the country. So of course you need some IDs to do it right.
Otherwise, it won't work.
Correct. And this is also where we need legislation and regulation, right? Because the old laws were designed for how we did it 20, 30, 40 years ago. And for example, I can imagine that, and I would like to see that, for example, transactions under a certain amount, we don't have to go through and do all that, right? And by the way, if people want to pay with crypto today, they don't have to go through KYC. They can just do it. But that's our pay-in product. Our payout product, when we pay out money on behalf of our customers, merchants across the world, where they can choose either to be paid out in crypto or in fiat into their bank account, there, by law, we have to go through it only once.
Only once.
But they have to identify that they're the right ones. And again, I'm not going to judge whether that's the right thing or wrong thing. We just do whatever it takes to follow the law.
I understand. These things, these are questions that need to be addressed. I think we can agree it still remains to be seen for those who give birth under a tree, which does happen.
Yes.
And they have no passport. They don't want to be. Maybe they do it by design. Some of them live in RVs. You know, buses. If you want to say campsites, and that remains to be seen.
But I would just say, if you have a mobile phone, which a lot of people have, right?
Yeah.
Then you have some kind of ID or
to get
something,
the mobile
right?
phone. So the SIM card.
So let's just say you have 40% unbanked. I take your point. There might be 5% that can't do. Then we at least conserve the 35%.
Yes.
Let's be happy about that. Let's give them a better life. Let's give them a more convenience and be able to participate in society in an electronic way.
Absolutely. A question now around, because again, we're getting into the more controversies, which is good. We don't want to be an echo chamber here.
No.
Some countries have banned crypto. That is true. Some countries have actually banned crypto, like for example China, and some jurisdictions I will not mention, but they have said an outright ban of crypto somewhere in the Middle East region too. No crypto use. Does that pose a threat to your company?
Of course, if people ban it, it can't be used.
Exactly.
However, you have to understand why they do it. And although I don't know all the details, right, the vast majority, it's allowed. And even if it's banned, people still use it, but that's a different thing. But
they do.
For
Black
example,
market.
China, it's not that they don't want crypto. They have just created their own government-backed digital currency.
CBDC,
right? And so why did they do that? They want to control the money flow. And I understand that from the central banks. They want to control it. They want to make sure that taxes are being paid. I mean, I don't like to pay taxes, but I live in a society where that is the model. And therefore, it's not fair that just because you use a different currency, you can get away with it. Now, the reason they ban it in some countries is because they've not passed the legislation, right? That requires, for example, companies like us to report back into them. They've had 50 years telling the banks, you have to tell us about the interest rates and this and that. And if you wire more than, I don't know, $10,000, $100,000, they also report, at least in the US, all those rules that they've implemented over time that gives them control, they are just not moving fast enough because the technology is moving faster. And so I think what's going to happen, first of all, it's happening everywhere and people use it anyway. And I think what they're going to do is they're just going to create their own rules and regulations for that country, and it will be rolled out. And also you have to think about it. The monetary system in a country is a part of that country's infrastructure. So as we all know, in order to have a modern, efficient society, you have to have a good infrastructure, phone system, roads, all that stuff. The monetary system is a part of that. Is it easy to move money? Is it inexpensive to move money? And those countries that, and I see it here in Dubai, clearly, they are like, we're going to use the latest technology to make a super efficient system for the businesses and people who are here. And those countries that do not use modern technology, they're going to have slower money flow, more expensive money flow, more fraud and all that stuff. Where would you want to build your business? Why is it that so many businesses move here? It's because they are open to new technology, they adopt it and they move it. And but of course I'm biased being from Silicon Valley, but I remember it in the early Uber days. There were cities that said, oh, no, we don't want Uber here, it's not. And the problem was they had not regulated. It was not fair. They said, oh, it's unfair to the taxis. And it was unfair. If I had to pay $5 to pick up people at the airport in a taxi, why shouldn't the Uber do that? I thought that was a reason. And then they finally passed the law, and then it was an equal playing field, and now everyone's using it.
Everyone's using it now. Yeah. I see. To build on that then, when it comes to the CBDCs, you mentioned China rolling out their government-backed digital currency.
Right.
To control people, to have more surveillance over them, and to ensure that taxes are being paid, things like that. You know, from the regulator standpoint, this is music to their ears. You know, you're paying your taxes, you're paying your dues, you're a contributing member of the economy.
Yes.
But on the other side, we have programmable money that's where in which the central bank can directly set expiry dates on your money and set vouchers and set what parameters of where you can spend your money and which jurisdiction, because they're all smart contracted. Now, what are your views on that? Because I know you're very pro-crypto, but this is CBDC now.
Yeah.
What are your views on this new way of surveillance on personal money and financial freedom?
Mm-hmm. So you have the whole idea with crypto and technology and cryptocurrencies, right? Was I should be able to have the money on my phone, completely private, all of that.
Backed by cryptography.
Yeah. And which is really, at the end of the day, it's like cash. You have bills in your pocket, I can move it around, nobody can really track it, right?
Right.
And so you go to most cities, you still see these suitcases with a lot of money. It's used for illegal purposes mostly, right? I mean, why do people have $1 million in a suitcase? And why do they travel with it as opposed to wiring it? Very few people do it for legal
I don't know
reasons.
anyone in my circle.
I don't know either. I don't have that many of those friends. But so the point is that that for the vast majority of people who don't want to do anything illegal and all of that, it's just a more efficient way. So, but you asked me, what's my view? My view is that it doesn't matter what I think about this. The reality is we live in societies where there are rules and regulations, right? And at least in the Western world, 90x% of all payment transactions are online, and they're already being monitored today, right? And why are they being monitored? It's because in those countries where it's not being monitored, where you can get away with all sorts of stuff and crime and corruption and all of that, they are not very, I would say, I mean, it's not good for the economy, right? If you look at well-functioning economies, there is less corruption, more crime, all that stuff. There are some countries, right, that, you know, all the money goes to. So if you want a well-functioning country, you need to have rules and regulations to avoid all the crime. Mm-hmm. And that's just the way of it. And for 95% of the world's population, I mean, you deal with it every day. When you use your credit card, you do it every day. When you get your salary, it comes into your bank account electronically. We're already doing everything electronically, and it's being monitored.
It is.
And it works.
And the money that we have in our bank account doesn't belong to us. It belongs to the bank. Right?
I don't know, and it belongs to me. They're holding it for me.
They're holding it for us.
Yeah. So I know people like, well, I want my personal freedom. I get their point. I'm just saying it's not going to work in a modern society.
Interesting.
And so what I care about, and at a macro level, I care about, just like it was Uber made it more efficient, easy, cheaper. I just took an Uber here, right? I go anywhere in the world. What I care about is if we can make it more secure. I mean, there are so many people who deal with stolen credit cards and all of that stuff. They lose money, all that stuff. Think about it. Here's an example I give. You take $1 or €1, anything. The life of $1 in 1 year. I am being paid. Every time money moves, there's a fee to be paid.
Correct.
Okay. So my employer pays me money. They pay a fee for that. Now I take that money and I buy a flat screen TV. I pay 3, 4, 5% in credit card fees indirectly, right? Now, whoever I bought it from, they pay Samsung in Korea. They have to move the money over there. They pay money.
They pay a fee, yes.
Yeah. Then they have to pay their vendors. They pay a fee for that, right? It goes through the systems. And then they have to pay their employees. So, and that goes around. And if you add it all up, and let's say the same dollar in 1 year goes 3 of those circles, I think we're ending up paying 8 to 10%. It's money that you and I pay. It's inefficiency in the monetary system. Now, if we with new technology can reduce that, and this, we're talking about a lot of money. It's like most of the GDP, at least 75% is consumer spending in the US. And if that is 8, 10%, 6, 7, if we could cut that by 75%, that money, that's additional efficiency, we can decide as a society, how do I want to spend it? Do I want to spend it on schools, more police, hospitals, lower taxes? And that is what technology has done in the last 30, 40 years. Every time we came up, the internet, look at the efficiency it has created, the productivity. It's driving economic growth. And that's where I see the opportunity here. We're going to fix a broken system. I'm going to give you another example. We're talking a lot about payments here, like from consumers, but we also have a B2B cross-border product. Anyone who's tried to move money between countries knows that it's getting very complicated and it's not reliable. We are sending money to our merchants all around the world. We're just wiring it, trying to. We have our customer here in Dubai. We are trying to wire it in dollars. It doesn't go through. Then we try an AED, it doesn't go through. It is inefficient. What is the amount of cash flow that is lost? Interest on that money. And there's a better way. And it's been, so you can say, why has it been so bad for so long? Because there was no technology to make it better. But now it's there.
Interesting viewpoint. I buy into the opportunities. There's no doubt about it. But say, Mr. Allen, who's a professor, a teacher, comes home from work, wants to have some fun on the internet.
Yes.
And he wants his privacy.
Yes.
He wants to maintain his privacy while having fun on the internet.
Yes.
And it's his right. It's his right to spend his money as he wishes.
Yep.
Now, is there a room for cash for these kind of purposes? Like, is there still a place for cash to exist where you can have your privacy and it doesn't always need to be traced?
I mean, that is technically possible with crypto. And to a large extent today, it is private. It is not being traced because I don't have to report anything to anyone yet because the laws have not been passed yet, right? Yet. So technically it's possible. So, but to answer your question, should I be allowed to do it privately? It depends on which country you live in and what that government believes you should do, right? So, but today, if you buy anything on the internet, you use your credit card, right?
Or Monero.
but all that is electronic.
Yeah,
and it is being monitored. It can be monitored. I don't know if it is, but it's already happening. The beauty of blockchain is it can be private, and it is private today. I'm just saying that I believe that in order for this to be allowed across our society, the government is going to put some rules and regulations in place so that it cannot be used by the criminals.
I understand.
That's why they're doing it. I don't think the government wants to track you and me.
Yeah, we're too small.
No, it's not about small. I buy milk down there. They don't care.
They don't care.
But they do care if I spend money on something that's illegal. Yeah. And so they are putting all these controls in place to catch the few criminals. Those are the few bad apples that ruins it for the rest of us.
I know, and this relates to money laundering, counter-terrorist financing. Using money for illicit purposes. So I understand there are merits to be acknowledged here for why a CBDC would be introduced and why it should be implemented to track these criminals and to put a ban on these illicit activities.
Can I just make one comment on the CBDCs?
Of course.
Because I thought 2-3 years ago, every government is going to create a CBDC, right? A digital dollar, digital euro, all that. I've changed my mind. I'm not sure it's going to happen. And here's why. Today, we have 3, at least for the US dollar. There are some in Europe as well. So we have 3 stablecoins, USDT, USDC, and the new PayPal coin. And as they are being rolled out, and being integrated into our systems, into accounting systems and all of that. Why do we need a central bank coin, a 4th one? Because think about it, the banking system, the governments, there's no retail banking with any government. They have outsourced it to the private sector. So what they've done in most countries is they've created the frameworks. You have to have this many reserves, down. And if you can work within that environment, then you go ahead.
Yeah.
We will monitor you, we will insure you, and we do this in order to protect the consumer and all that. It doesn't always work. We saw that with Silicon Valley Bank and so on, but it works 99% of the cases, right? Why couldn't they, instead of creating their own in the US CBDC, because when was the government really good at running a technology project like that? I have my own opinion about that. I don't think they're the best. That's just my opinion, right? So what they could do instead is to say, PayPal, some of the big companies, maybe the banks, anyone can create a stable coin, private stable coin. And as long as you live up to the regulations with the reserves and there's protections, all that, go for it. And then we don't need a CBDC. So I don't know where it's going to end up, right? But it just occurred to me that you could fix it with good regulation and then let the private sector run it, just like the private sector is running the banks.
Do you see a world in which the governments that do and the countries that do introduce the CBDCs, there may be some people leaving those countries to exit that so that they can preserve their privacy elsewhere, whereas CBDC is not enforced?
Yeah, but if you don't like to use the government's CBDC, you can
leave.
Well, you could just use a private stable coin or Bitcoin or all the other stuff. I'm just saying that if you want to do that, I think some countries they're gonna say, no matter what cryptocurrency you use, we're gonna regulate it to some extent. They will. It's the same thing if you are a mobile telephone company. The government can come to that mobile phone company in most countries with a court order and say, I want to know where Peter was that day because we think he murdered someone. That is, and you could argue, and I like privacy too.
Yeah.
I'm just being pragmatic here.
Yes.
I get the point of it should be all private.
Private, yeah.
It should be. I'm just saying, in order for it to be allowed and work, there will have to be. And again, why are the governments, why do they want to look at our phone records?
Phone records.
Do you think they care that you and I talk together? Of course not. But if someone murders someone or it's other crime, that's why they're doing it.
Yeah, I know.
And so
striking a balance between total privacy versus total opposite of privacy, that's the real challenge here. And it remains to be seen to find the optimal.
Yeah, and the different governments, and at the end of the day, in most countries, the people elect the governments, right? So vote on the right person.
Let's turn our attention to something else.
Yes.
Why are you in Dubai? And what is your view on Dubai?
Well, so I'm in Dubai because Ripple had that conference and we're a good customer and partner of theirs, and they're doing a lot of interesting stuff with their XRP coin, with their blockchain XRP ledger and all of that.
They're also rolling out a CBDC, or helping governments.
They are helping. They provide the infrastructure for that.
Yes.
So I was there for that conference where we met. We also have customers and partners here. We have some very large customers here in Dubai. Again, because people are very forward-thinking here. So those were the two main reasons. In terms of how I look at Dubai, it is so refreshing to see. It's so refreshing to see a government or country using technology as a competitive differentiator and trying to create an environment that attracts businesses and therefore economic growth. I feel it when I get here. And we heard at the conference from some of the regulators here how they've regulated it. They've come out and said, we have to define the playing field. And we as players in this field, we love that. Because just tell us the rules and we'll follow them. Right? But if you don't tell us the rules, like some countries haven't done yet, very large countries, then there are no clear guidelines, and then we try to do our best. I mean, I spend so much money on lawyers. Can we do this? Can we do that? And and that is what Dubai has done. Amazing. I mean, your infrastructure here is amazing. Not just the financial system, but I can tell that you want to be the financial hub.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about the financial hubs, right? You have New York, you had London, and then they went out of EU, and now, I mean, there's still stuff there, right?
Yeah.
And then you have Singapore. Clearly, you want to be one of those hubs. And it's already happening.
I think it's thriving for businesses. It attracts a different level of mindset to be here as well. That you'd be willing to travel all the way here, set a new life for your business and for your longevity of being here, for opportunities.
But it worked for Singapore. They had the same thing 50 years ago. They created a whole, and Hong Kong longer than that. You have these new hubs, and you have the old-fashioned world that thinks, hey, we are London, New York, whatever, right? And it's just like with countries and economies, it's like that with the tech companies, right? That there's always new startups that come and they disrupt the old ones.
Interesting. Turning our attention to the markets now, market sentiment right now. I think Bitcoin just hit 36K.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on this? Do you think we have entered the bull run? Do you think we're in the beginning of it? What are your thoughts? Because you're a crypto guy.
Yeah, well, so as we talked about, there are two objectives of crypto, right? And I'm in the infrastructure camp so I just want to use the technology.
You don't care about the price so much.
I don't care about it and I don't care which coin wins, except I do own a few myself, of course, right? But my point is that it's two different purposes. So let's talk about that part, which is which currencies are going to win and where it's going to go. It is going to go up. Totally believe in that. And the reason is, and we see it in the number of transactions that are going up. More and more people use crypto. More and more people get educated about it. Young people, like for example, the payouts that we do. I explained that example with for example, Upwork, where someone helps you with a PowerPoint presentation and they have to, instead of sending the money via bank transfer, they pay out in crypto. Those young people sitting in Indonesia, wherever they sit, and make a little bit of money, they have friends. And the friend said, what do you mean? You got your money next day? You were able to pay your rent on time? How did you do that? Because I am dealing with the bank and it takes a week. And so they start talking. And then, no, let me show you. I mean, that is how people use their phones that's how we learn. And it's just spreading. So, and so the more people who understand the technology and use it, the more demand for these coins. So yes, I do believe it's going to go up. And you know how in the US they're creating the ETF, the Bitcoin ETFs. There are a lot of people around the world that they don't understand crypto. They don't see, and this is one of my issues. That's what makes me sad every time we have a new technology, how long it takes for people to change. Initially, most people are worried about new technology. And they're initially, I think I told you about it, right? People were laughing at Jeff Bezos in the beginning. They were laughing at Elon Musk. They are laughing at, and they're coming up with all the reasons why this is not going to work. Until a number of years later, this is convenient. I remember my mom she didn't like the debit card. She used to go into the bank and withdraw her money. It's like, now it's actually kind of convenient, right? So we just need more and more people to be comfortable. And one way to do it is to incorporate it in something they already exist. So if I have my retirement account with Fidelity, and now I can suddenly buy a Bitcoin ETF, and I can talk to my wealth advisor that says, you should diversify and you can put some money here, and I would recommend you put it into an ETF that's tied to crypto. People are going to be, let me try that. I made some money on that.
Yeah.
Cool, right? I like that. So that's what's going to happen. And that's what I believe is going to drive it up.
And let's not also ignore the fact that the Bitcoin halving is coming up next year.
Yep.
Which means there's going to be less circulating, supply of Bitcoin, which means it's going to be more scarce.
Yeah.
That should lead to a greater price prediction. And greater adoption. Interesting points. So let's say two scenarios here. You have cryptocurrencies on one hand, and you have fiat on the other hand.
Yes.
What animal best describes cryptocurrencies, what animal best describes fiat, in your opinion?
Animal.
Yeah, animal.
Crypto is the leopard.
Leopard?
It's agile, it's fast, it is smooth, that's that.
And fiat?
I don't know, the turtle?
Stale?
Something like that, right? It's slow, it should be something that's expensive, right? A turtle can be expensive, right? It's expensive, it's inefficient, it's just the old way of doing things. There's nothing wrong with it, it's just how we used to do it versus we just have to embrace technological improvement and be happy about how it helps us. The electric vehicle, there's so much stuff, and it makes our lives better, easier.
Final question.
Yes.
If you had a blockchain superpower, what's something in the market that's lacking right now that you could use this superpower to fix?
Ease of use. Okay. Right now, the way most people make, for example, payments is with a QR code and an address like this. And if you screw it up, you lose money.
You lose money.
Right? So that we need to fix that's one of the things we need to fix. In order to get good adoption for the mainstream, it needs to be easy to use. Very easy to use. Right? Otherwise, it's nerds like you and me and the other 5% of the population that uses it, right? And that's great. And we're kicking the tires now and we're finding the problems, and it was like the early days of the internet. You were not there, but I tell you, when you went on a dial-up line and you went to CNN, it was not pretty, it was not fast, and there were a lot of people that were laughing. But the early adopters went through that and we improved it, and now we all love it. And so usability is one thing that's key for mass adoption. There's probably more.
Peter Jensen, thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it. Really insightful interview, and I think our audience would definitely benefit from both what you're doing with Rocket Fuel, also what we discussed, what's missing, and what these talking points. We didn't just talk things that we agreed with, we talked things about what's also happening and what could be changed and what are some threats. So I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for watching. Hope you follow the page. This is the Traders Brawl talk show focused on emerging technology, and we are in collaboration with Web3 TV. So again, we appreciate you for staying with us, and we hope to see you next time. So thank you, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.